bridging. So bridging goes by many names. Many different traditions of exercise and movement employ some element of bridging. But apart from all the different prescriptions of bridges, the principle of it is creating whole body extension. So my whole body is going to extend and support from the 4 points, my feet up to my hands, and then that's where I create the two bases, and then my bridge is extending through those 2 points. So that's the principle. Many different prescriptions that follow from that principle. When we start with just working on the bridge, not having it as part of another movement, we're going to start, number one, opening up the 4 corners of the torso, front of the hips and the shoulders. If you don't need this, and you may well have enough space in your 4 corners to go right into a bridge, don't use it. But if you're like me and this position is a really difficult one for you to work on, this is a nice prep before. I'm going to put my hand behind my back and I'll show how that works. And I'm going to use my elbow as a lever to pull on. So I'm going to pull that, and notice I'm connecting the same side. So from corner to corner on the same side, and then I'm going to lean forward and create my extension. All together, I'm working on creating that same extension, and I'm thinking about lifting up, not just cranking back. And you should feel no pressure in your lower back, and talk to us if you do, but there should be no pressure created in your lower back. You should feel a big stretch across the anterior lines, front side of the body. We'll do that on both sides. First, create some space. And absolutely positively, this goes with any stretch. Play with it. Add a little rotation. Twist this way and that. And find where your tightness is. Don't get too lost in the prescription. Use it as a means to find where you need a little extra action. You might even need to turn into a bit of a pretzel and find the outside of the hip. So, done some stretching, now I'm ready to bridge. We'll start the bridge on the wall. Strong center and soften the knees. A lot of times when people start to bridge, they put their hand on the ground and then everything is about loading the arm, and oh my gosh, how am I going to hold myself up? The bridge starts at the feet and stays in the feet. You put as much of your body into your feet as possible, and then when you touch the wall, this is for balance, this is for root. So kickstand and root. And I'm going to work on extending and bringing my body line through so I can fully extend and put both hands on and then push back out. Again, I'm picking myself up from my feet. If you feel like your feet aren't doing anything and you just have to push off, sink down, sink your root, and reconfirm connection with your feet. Notice I have a nice wide stance here too. Don't practice this with a narrow stance. Give yourself plenty of space, almost a horse stance. Brace, and now really extend the pelvis. Move the pelvis away from the floor, and absolutely, you can work your way down the wall. You don't have to make that your progression, but you can make more space down the wall until you feel like you're ready to try the next progression. So the next progression is really like, there's 2 options. One is a supported bridge, and a supported bridge means that I'm going to put something in the small of my back to hold me off of the ground. So I'm now being supported by this medicine ball, and I'm trying to put it in the small of my back, so I project my pelvis up. Because really it's putting your pelvis into place and having everything else align around the center, the core, your pelvis. So this is one option, using the supported bridge, and then I can start to get my fingers on the floor. This is where we often run into another limiting factor for bridging, and that's the wrist and the fingers. So if you don't have enough dorsiflexion in your hands to support a bridge, or if you just don't have enough strength and there's some pain there, you can add to this support some block props. So block prop bridge. I have the blocks propped up on a 2x4 against the wall here. and I'm using the tall side of the 2x. These are propped to give me a little bit more space. So I'll see if I can combine these two. I'll use my medicine ball and I'll use my block props. And now I'm a little bit off of the ground, and then feet drive to lift me up and find my full bridge. Again, I'm trying to push myself back into my feet so I keep the strength in my feet, not shift it over into my hands once they take some load. Keep as much weight, as much of the time in your feet throughout the bridge. And then the final progression for bridging is a full bridge. And we'll do this from pressing off of the ground. There are many different advanced versions of this. They get into it from different positions. But we'll start from finding our 4 points on the ground and then pushing up and off. That's what all of these stages have been working toward. Again, I'm going to take a nice wide stance. I'm not going to put my feet together. Give myself plenty of base. And then I'm going to take my arms. I'm going to put them just above my shoulder, fingers pointing down. You can play with some angles here. They don't have to be exactly at your shoulders, but use your shoulders as a guide. And notice how I'm trying to get to my feet. Again, I don't want to start pressing into my arms. I want to use my feet to lift my pelvis, and my pelvis to lift everything else. So as soon as I start pushing, I want my feet to take over, and I want to keep using my feet. So here I'm confirming my root through my heels. I'm trying to push my pelvis up. Then I'll come back down. Once you're working on that, you can play with lifting your heels and putting your heels down. It'll change the way your strength comes, just in the way pushing through the heels or pushing through the toes changes where the strength comes in other movements. But use both of them. Lifting your heels up off the ground just brings your whole body up a little higher, so it can give you a little more space in your wrists. Confirming through the heel engages the glutes, which can help to release the hip flexors because they work against each other. So strength here will cue the other side to release. So there's pros and cons going through toes and heels, and I'll do a couple reps of that. I get up in my bridge. Here's my heels, and here's my toes. It gives me a little more space. I'm breathing behind the tension. This is not a place to hold your breath. And then we'll lower back down. Bridging.